So, welcome back to another exclusive CO.FAX magazine interview. We're sitting here with the founder of Just a Messenger podcast, where she has necessary conversations with people from all over. Ariyuan,
Hi.
introduce yourself, let people know who you are, what you do.
Cool. I'm Ariyuan. Monet is what I go by. That is my first and middle name. But Ariyuan, Ari, whatever you like, I like it all. And for you as well, whatever you feel comfortable with. But who am I? I mean, I do a lot of things. But all in all, my podcast is like my baby, and that's what I'm really focused on right now. And just bettering myself as a person, a woman. I also just got my broker's license in Georgia, so if you're in Georgia and you're out there, I'll be out there real soon. I'm still in Denver. But yeah, that is essentially what I do. I also work with kids. I've done that for a lot of my life. I was just recently a part of the Freedom School in Denver. For a summer program that they had, which was actually really fun. And this woman reached out to me, basically trying to like I told you before, like Denver, like opportunity just comes because you know people from the city you're from. So like it's such a blessing, and that's why I'm scared to move. But yeah, this woman ended up like trying to throw a business in my hand, basically, and I'm just like about to leave, but. You know, it was dope. Like, it was really dope to even be exposed to the fact that, like, I can monetize off of working with kids in that way. Like, if you work with kids and you also, like, teach yoga, therapists, things like that, like, there's opportunity out there to get contracts with government. So, tap in, because it was such an exposure for me. But yeah, I mean, I would say that's who I am. That's what I do. Yeah.
So,
this is my first time being on video,
yeah.
so.
That's dope that you like try to interact with as much shit as possible. And because you know how it is in the Black community with some people,
For
you
sure.
don't always like do certain shit that is beneficial for the community. Not all the time.
You feel like that?
Certain people. Cause
yeah, I mean that's
they
fair.
they don't like, you feel me? They don't try to go help the youth all the time, or they don't try to like, or even put themselves in position. Like
I
niggas
think
can put money in,
people,
but like,
I don't know about Black people, I think people in general, you know, like,
that too.
Like,
cause
people are just very focused on themselves. But I don't have kids, so it's a luxury I've had, and like the luxury to have like sat with myself and said what is purposeful for me. So that's what led me to the opportunities that I've exposed myself to, is by fulfilling purpose, you know. Right. So I don't think that we have that luxury all the time. Like that's a privilege, you know. So
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'll take that on me. So
I mean, that's my thought. Let me not be so. I know I could be coming hard.
So, where are you from?
I'm from here. I'm from Colorado. I grew up in Aurora.
Yeah. How was it like growing up there?
That's a good question. I never asked anybody that. I mean, honestly, like, I'm scary. So, like, for me, probably anything scary. Like, I told you, those guys were like, it was weird vibes. And I know it was weird. Like, one of them was just sitting, like, they talked to me, and then they just decided to sit. Then I see the same guy walking down. Then one guy talked to me on the street, asking me if I was married. And, like, I was like, no. I mean, I said, yeah, I lied. I was like, mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, my bad day, or some weird shit. And I was like, okay. He ends up getting on his scooter. He's like riding past me like 10 minutes later. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why is this happening? So like, growing up, like I would say as a woman, as a young woman, like I had to take the bus a lot. And I'm actually on the bus right now after I crashed my car. Took some L's, honestly, but I took the bus growing up in Aurora, and just all around Denver. I never went to school in Aurora, which was always an interesting thing, the difference about my brother and I. Like, he always went to school in a neighborhood school, and I never did. And I know it was because she wanted to keep him close, like, he was with the shit. So, like, she had to be real close just in case they called her, like, he gotta go home for the day, whatever it was, like, she has to pull up. That's really what it was, but it was always so different. Like, I went to school far out, so sometimes I had a ride, but more often than not, I took the bus. So, like, it was scary for me because I was just young and a girl, and like, men are weird just like that. Like, I think all women have that, like, fear, like, when they're out and shit, like, they're just concerned. Like, you gotta be, I just pray to God, and sometimes I have something, but sometimes you don't. And so, like.
And that kind of like leads into my next question. What was some of the challenges you had to face growing up here
In Colorado? Like, my friend and I, she's from the South, from Tennessee, and we talk about racism also, like, often, and like, it's much more outspoken and different for more melanated people, she feels, like, out there. But I personally feel like in Colorado, it's such a different form of, like, racism, and like, I don't know, like, Denver's a weird city. Like, it's beautiful here, but the white people feel like this is their shit, for real. Like, there's not a lot of not white people out here, I feel like. So, like, I feel like this is one place that they feel like this is theirs, because that's how white people are, kind of. Like, they're very territorial. I don't mean no disrespect. I don't think all white people are like that, but, like, all in all, historically, and even just systematically through their systems, like, they make it a point to keep it a place like this, which is why Black men are getting the time they're getting through private prison, and just a lot of things, that I've experienced firsthand. So I would say that, like, the challenges here are that it's really hard to be Black here. Like, but it's also, if you're, like, willing to be that trophy motherfucker, like, then there's opportunity out here. Like, these white people will fuck with you because they love smart Black people. They love that out here, especially. They're trying to get their money, so, like, they're into the diversity shit to an extent until they're not, So I think that out here, it's like, it can be really hard and it can be really easy to be a Black person. It just depends on where you go, how you position yourself, and the positions you put yourself in, like, bad and good. And I've been on both sides of the shit, like, so. But I think that Black people would feel like, any Black person would feel like that's their challenges anywhere, is, like, just being Black in America. Like, there's a lot of attacks on us, like, on the people we're close to us. So I feel like that's my biggest challenge, is battling that, like, and trying not to always make everything about that. Like, somebody said something to me, like, I don't know how it came up, but, like, after being in that neck brace specifically, like, I was really out here handicapped, kind of, like, and the thing is, I'm not the type of person to just sit down and, like, let myself die in some situation, mentally, physically. So, like, going through that, I was still outside and shit, like, moving into the extent I could. And so, people would treat me like I'm handicapped, though. Like, they were, like, sensitive to me and, like, oh, and so mentally, like, you have that, like, naturally you'll have that defensiveness of like, it's because of this. And I realize that I do that about race sometimes. Like, it's because I'm a black woman. It's because I'm a black woman. And like, sometimes it's not that. Sometimes people are just fucked up. And that's just who they are. It has nothing to do with my race. They would do that to anybody. And so I would say that's been my biggest challenge, is like not trying to be on defensive mode, but also being aware of your surroundings, because not everybody's for you. So, yeah.
That's real.
I know I talked a lot.
No, that's good. This is for you. Like, you really talk that shit. This is for you. So
I've never been on this side, you know, like, this is not my normal position. Usually I'm the person like asking the questions and just like, yeah, for real. Wow. You know, like, yeah, it is something new for sure.
So yeah, I mentioned that I was listening to some of the earlier episodes of your podcast.
Yeah.
And this was the first one, I guess episode 0. But you mentioned that you started working at like 13. And in that moment, did you know like how much of a responsibility you had to take on at the time? Like, what was that experience like for you?
I think honestly, like, some of the things that I experienced made me resent my brother sometimes, because he just didn't get it like that, or like maybe he got it like that, but right when he passed away. So like, I just wish that like I wouldn't have like been that way towards him. That was more of the responsibility. Like, I felt so like, why is this on me? Like, little nigga, get your shit up. Like, you know, but he was young, he was still young, you know, but like, he still would just not understand too. He was a kid, so, you know, kids say certain shit that will hurt your feelings too. And I was still young, so we fought. And I just wish that like, the responsibility that I chose to take on wouldn't have allowed for it to sever some parts of our relationship, because he's not here anymore. So I would say that was part of it, but like, it wasn't really a responsibility. Like, my mom, she worked hard. She was a single mother of 2, and she wanted us to have nice shit, like, for the most part. Like, what we wouldn't wear like designer and shit, like, don't get it twisted, but like, she didn't want us to just be out here. Like, she wanted her kids to look good and feel good and have a warm shower. Like, you know, it could have been worse, like, as a black kid. So like, my mom, she did her thing. It wasn't really a responsibility I felt like I had to take on. It was like, I wanted to take that burden off of her. Like, I could do these things for me. You don't have to even worry about these things. Like, I got this. So I had a job at 13, but that was like through a worker's permit. And it only lasted for like a year, or like however long they let me do it. And then I had to wait till I was 15 or 16, whenever they let you really get a job. I think it's 15. And I loved it. Like, I loved that. That makes me feel fulfilled. Like, it's something I battled with as an adult. Like, sitting down, not working when I broke my neck, for real. Like, I just I have attached my self-worth to that bank account, you know? So like, I've struggled with that because I've had money since young, you know? Like, I never not had money, or at least tried to get some money in my pocket. So, I don't know, I love money, I love hustling. I don't really feel like, I'm grateful for the experience of like seeking that shit. Like, and even the fact that my mom was a single mom, so like, I had to go get it. Like, that's why rich people, their kids end up being like fucked up and like on drugs, don't have no hustle. Like, not all the time, but like more often than not, they just don't value that shit. Like, I appreciate my experience for that. Like, it made me want to go get it, you know? And I have, like, and I'm gonna keep going. I have, that's my position in my DNA, you know. And I hope that I don't raise spoiled ass kids, because I'm gonna be rich. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Got that mentality though. So, what was school like for you?
School. I mean, I was really smart. I graduated like top of my class. But I didn't really like, I had like a group of friends in high school. But before that, I was really a loner, like kept to myself. Like I feel like people definitely saw me as like a nerd in middle school for sure. Like, you know how kids are. Like kids put labels and shit. But I always knew like I was pretty, like, and I knew that people didn't like that. Like some people were really mean to me because I was pretty, but smart and stayed to myself. Like I wasn't about that drama and shit. Like I'm very non-confrontational until like you in my face, you disrespectful. Like, but I'm not with that like petty bullshit. So like high school and middle school were just like smooth sailing for the most part. Like I just did me. I kept my head in the books. I did get caught up in weed in high school, and you know, had some weed charges and shit like a few times, honestly. And I don't even know. Like I know my mom was like, how? Like she's top of her class, but yet she's in this stupid shit. And that kind of seems repetitive in my life. As I've gotten older, I've realized like I gotta chill the fuck out. But like, you know, DNA. Like I've watched fucked up shit. I come from some fucked up things, and I realized I had to fight that shit. I am fighting that shit every day. But like school was cool. I graduated top of my class. I went to college for like a little bit, but then I realized like I'll be sitting in there like I smoke weed, and specifically in college, like I would smoke weed before class and be like, one day I was looking at my business teacher like, you don't have a business. Like it was just one of them hits blunts, you know that meme? Like my business teacher doesn't have a business, but he's teaching me about business. Like how? And so I just realized like in that moment, like this is not teaching me what I need to know. Even though I had only knew school, that's I feel like been the hardest part about my journey actually, is like I was very studious, very obedient, and like people pleaser type. And business is not like that. Like being an entrepreneur is nothing like that. Like I've had to fight those ways too. You know, in school you're told to follow directions and you're set homework and due dates. And I've had to set my own due dates and learn to like how to teach myself to prioritize some shit without having somebody saying, like validating that shit, you know? So like school made it really hard actually for me as a businesswoman, like being such a people pleaser. Like I've had to really be like, okay, you have to validate yourself, you have to people please yourself to take my business ventures to the level I want to. So yeah, that's my answer about school.
I feel like a lot of people have that realization when they get into it. Kind of necessarily like more or less like financial. Like, oh, I'm paying all this money and I could be investing, but doing whatever. But
I actually got paid to go to school sometimes, like scholarships and shit. So that didn't really bother me. Like going to school is free, which was a blessing too. But I could see how I wouldn't pay for school. Like if I was in that position, I'd be like, hell no. Like if I'm gonna pay for something, there's people out here teaching people how to like wholesale real estate, start a podcast that's successful, anything that you want to do, somebody is teaching a course on it. I would pay for that shit before I paid for college. And that's the day and age we're at, like, you know.
facts. You can be your own boss.
Exactly. So I wouldn't pay for college. But to the people that have shit, like, kudos. I love like I've been to to a college homecoming and shit, and like as a Black person, like from Colorado, like being in Tennessee, seeing their homecoming, like I wish that I had that piece of school, like that culture piece and the experience piece, but like I wouldn't pay for it for anything else, you know?
Facts. School is really like socialization, but you're kind of antisocial, so.
Kind of.
Nah, yeah, you of course like have people you
Kinda, sorta.
associated with and
Yeah.
acquaintances and shit, but
Not for real.
kind of kept to yourself.
Pretty
so,
low key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you also talked about in one of your episodes leaving at 18 and working, doing that. So that's another like crazy responsibility, but you said it was due to your ego.
Definitely. A lot of things I've done in my life have been ego rooted for sure. I feel like that's the biggest thing I fight with myself, like these days for sure, is like arrogance and like humility and like in all my relationships, whether it's romantic, with my family. Yeah, like ego is a big deal for me. It's really hard. I'm a Virgo. So I struggle, but moving out, again, another like, it was ego, like, I feel like that nigga, like, yeah, like, I was getting to money at a young age. Like I was waiting tables at a place where like grown ass people, 30s, 40s, this is their career, for real. So like I was making a lot of money and I felt good, like I felt real good, like but I wasn't responsible. Like if I knew then what I knew now, like I would have been rich for real, because especially at the time in the housing market, like I would have just been on some different shit. So I would say that like if anything, like that was the biggest lesson from that shit. Like it was cool to have that freedom, but I didn't do a lot with it. Like I just was turning up, sneaking in the club, because I wasn't 21. So it was like exciting. Now that I'm in this place, like where I want to just be cultivating the dream of the life that I've had for myself and my future family, like I just am focused. I want to just do certain things and really be firm in the choices I make. So it wasn't really responsibility. It was like, I'm that nigga. Like, yeah, I'm paying these bills. I'm doing this shit. Like, I felt good. I didn't feel like, oh, this is so hard. Like, it wasn't hard. It was really simple. I had a roommate, and it was real cool. So, but I feel like I also did not value that shit. Like, now that I'm in the situations that I've been in the last few years, like, I have not been back in my own place since 2020. Like I lived in that place for like a year and a half or some shit and moved for love. Foul decision. Like it wasn't even love. Like I think it was just like this very spontaneous, erratic decision. Like, okay, I'm moving. Like, let's go. Like, fuck it. So I haven't had my own place since then, and yeah, I'm about to have my own place when I move again, and I'm very, very excited. Like, I know that I'll value it and cherish it different, but I didn't value that shit. Like, I remember, like, being in my house one day and just being like, I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for this. And my, like, God in me, my higher self, my ego, something said, no, you're not. And I said, like, I want to feel this shit on a deeper level. Like, I know that there's a deeper level of, right now what I'm feeling is really not gratitude. It was just like arrogance, So like, I feel like everything I've been through the last few years has really just made me know gratitude, specifically after breaking my neck. Like, oh my God. So like, yeah, it wasn't really responsibility. It was a lesson, like, in my journey. Like, I gained a lot from not valuing, not cherishing, and not respecting, like, the blessings that I was being given. So I'm excited for what's to come in my life now, because how I see things and the shit that I've been through. So it wasn't really responsibility, but yeah, a lesson for sure.
And like, that was gonna lead to my next question, but you kind of answered it. Like, that was just basically a humbling experience from that point to now. Kind of like looking back at it, it was like, yeah. And I hate that because
Yeah.
I've done that too, to where it's like, fuck. Looking back at it, I could have did so much more, or did so much better with this, and I could be right here, fucking up, like
why did you not respect that?
Like if I would have like started working at 13, if I would have fucking known about credit at 13, 14, 15, like really known about it though, and how beneficial it was.
For real.
Like motherfucker would have had an 800 credit score right now, living wherever the fuck, driving whatever the fuck, doing whatever the fuck. Like,
exactly.
I don't know. It's a lot of shit, but education is really like important.
Hell yeah.
You have to be educated in order to thrive. But
no, you're right about that. Our people don't know that though. Like, you know, we were not allowed that privilege. So like, our generation is that. So, you know, just be grateful where we are at. That's how I try to see it.
Now we have more access. I say that shit all the time. Like we got more access than.
There's no excuse.
Than our ancestors for sure. It is no excuse. Go read a book. Go watch some
YouTube.
videos. Go do whatever the fuck. Like it's
exactly
shit now.
There's no excuse to not do what you want to do.
Exactly. You mentioned you worked with the youth. What's the story behind that? Like, what was that experience like?
Youth. When did that start? I mean, I feel like since a kid, like I told you when we were talking about kids and just parenting young parents, is like I raised kids. I helped raise kids. My mom adopted she's like our cousin, but I mean, she's our sister for sure. Like we had her since she was 4 months, and I was in high school when we got her, so I was grown, you know, like I wasn't grown mentally, but like there was certain responsibilities that I was taking on for sure as Zaya's sister. That wasn't just like sibling shit. It was like being a form of parent, godparent, auntie, whatever. So, even with her brother though, he's a little bit older than her. When I was younger, they would his parents would drop him off and ask me like, do you want to watch him? I'm like, okay. Like I was a kid, I didn't care. Like I love CJ, so like yeah, pull up. Like I'll watch his ass. You know, they were young parents, so they wanted to be out doing what the fuck they doing, and I was like, go ahead. It was summer for me. I had nothing going on at 13. I'm like, yeah, I'll babysit. I'm on duty for the week. Let's go. So I had been around kids for a very long time, but my first job with kids, I think, was actually at the preschool, but it could have been the group home. But I worked with autistic 3 to 5 year olds. I think I worked there first, and I don't really know what motivated that, actually. Like, now that you're asking, it was really exhausting because I was in school and working at Papado, serving by night, like still slinging tables, trying to make that cash. And I actually ended up, that's how I fucked off Papado, by just being dumb because I was exhausted, overworking myself. Another lesson, you know, like you can't go hard like that, you gotta slow down. But working with the youth, I think it was a group home, I think it was a preschool, I don't know which one was first, but I did that with the preschool kids, and that taught me a lot. Like, it made me respect like parents of autistic kids so much more. Like, that shit starts when they're a child, like not just, they just are an adult and then they are autistic. Like, these parents have had to learn to adapt in a different way than a parent of a neurotypical child does. And so I learned a lot. Like, it was good. It was like I said, it was really exhausting working with kids, 8 hours and then getting off, trying to do homework some days, working at the restaurant some nights. Like, it was off and on, one or the other. Like, I was doing one or the other for sure. So I just burnt myself out and ended up just working at the preschool and continuing public school. And by that point, it got more fulfilling. But I don't know, like after that, it just made me just realize like I want to work with kids. Yeah, it was preschool first. It made me realize that I wanted to work with kids, but autistic kids, preschoolers specifically, was just not my, like, I wouldn't say gift, because I was good at it. Like, a lot of the teachers really liked me in it, but it was just not as fulfilling for me as, like, working with the group home kids. Like, kids that have been given nothing, like, just different, there's levels to that shit, like, of lacks of privilege. And working with the group home was like, I still talk to some of those kids, like, I pray for them, like, they've been throwing some really shitty cards at a very young age, you know? And so, again, another lesson, like, I grew up spoiled, kind of, like, and sheltered in some ways. So, like, even though I experienced some shit for sure, like, some, you know, like, J. Cole has this song, like, something that he basically said, like, shit that would crawl for therapy in the white community. This is normal, like, this is just what it is. So, like, I've been through shit, don't get it twisted, but, like, these kids have been through shit, like, and they're young, so another humbling experience. But that was purposeful. Like, I had really sat with myself and was like, what do I want to do with kids? Like, after working at the preschool, I was like, I don't want to work with autistic preschoolers, but I definitely want to serve youth. And so somehow I got exposed to group homes. Maybe I was watching something or saw a documentary about something in this realm, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So somebody plugged me in out here. Like I said, opportunities, blessings. So I did that, and I worked with Black people, actually. Like, it was a Black-owned business. So that was really dope and very, like, different for Colorado. Like, everybody else I've worked for was white. So I love that. What drove the youth positions in my life was just wanting to serve community, really, and figuring out in what way. And youth was always it, because, like, I was a youth that was not privileged in some areas of my life. Like, my dad was not around, so I appreciated the roles that were in my life. And so I was like, I want to be that, like, in some type of way. So, yeah.
So, just being helpful with that and shit. Like I was saying earlier, just wanting to be a part of that, to help and to grow within that. Like, that's dope.
Thank you.
So basically, hustling, like working and shit, and you decide like you want to be your own boss. So you learning all of these skills and shit. What made you start the podcast?
So the podcast actually wasn't even like a business idea of mine. Like, as business oriented as I've always been, like, my first like LLC was Be the Best You, and that's still an LLC I keep active, and the podcast is under that now. But Be the Best You was actually like my first business, and I thought I was gonna have a group home, and like that's where I thought I was going, nonprofit actually. And that really wasn't business. It was also like I knew I'm gonna be a boss, but again, I wanted to always be purposeful and thinking about how I can really use my gifts to serve. So the podcast was actually like I would just be talking, and people would be like, you need to have a podcast. Like, it happened a few times in one like week or month, and I don't believe in like coincidence. Like, I'm very into like signs, and like I'm pretty deep off into that type of shit, like astrology. So it kept happening in these like divine encounters. People were saying, you need to have a podcast. And I was like, really? Like, at some point after it happened like third time, I'm like, why? Like, I had to know why they felt like that. And, you know, I thank my god sister, you know, another formal friend, formal associate, like, those people in my life, that I can remember off the top of my head, like, they're the reason why I have the podcast. Like, they were just like, you need to do this. And so, like, I sat with myself and was like, okay, like, you need to have a podcast. Like, finally, I just took it, like, you need to have a podcast. So I started writing it down, like, podcast. And I said, well, what would I talk about? What would this show look like that would really be like me? And so I just put all my values down and like things that I like, things that I care about. And somehow it has refined to, I'm just a messenger. Like, we're all just a messenger. I want anybody to feel comfortable telling their story, because like, I love this shit. Like, I love to talk, you know? So I know that other people gain from that, like talking about themselves, talking about their experiences, being asked about those things. And I know the power in hearing those things back. Like, there's gonna be people that listen to this, like, not even on no arrogant shit, but like, somebody's gonna hear this and just be like, some parts of this, something that I said, it's gonna be one sentence that's like, what the fuck? Like, I needed to hear that from my perspective. So that's why I have the podcast, because I think that this type of shit, these type of environments are important, especially to our community, to talk better, more to each other, and just communicate and share our truth so we can heal from that shit. So yeah, I just put all the things that I really value in one thing, and I said, okay, let's go.
And in the beginning, like, how hard was it having to learn like so much about so much different shit? Cause yeah, it is. It's like, yeah, you go in and you record, but there's just like so much shit behind it, like
Hell yeah.
software and equipment and audio, and even learning the business side, like making money from it, like.
Yeah, for sure. I love that you're bringing that up. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I can say that, like, it was like jumping in the deep end with no floaties. Like, niggas out here drowning. Like, oh my God. Like, you didn't know what you were getting yourself into. It was another humbling situation. But I'm very, like, detail oriented. So I looked into a ton of shit before I even recorded my first episode. Like, okay, what kind of microphones, what kind of, how do I even record this? Once I record it, where am I putting this shit? How am I distributing it? How am I editing it? It was a lot of YouTube videos. It was a lot of taking notes. Like, I feel like now that I'm looking back, it was exciting. It was exhilarating in those moments. Whereas now, I've decided, like, for anything I do, like, I want to be great. Like, and now that I see the response that the podcast is getting, not only to people's life and their spirit, but also like exponential like growth, I'm like, okay, like, I'm not even really taking this shit serious. So like, it's time to take this shit serious, because it could be something big. So I've kind of had that mindset for some time, but not really like putting in the work, you know? So, because it takes a lot of work. I would say that, like, anybody that wants to do this shit, like, it's not easy, bro. Like, being a content creator is, like, overwhelming sometimes, because everybody who's in the same niche as you is your competitor to some extent, but not in a competitive way of, like, I'm hating on your content, but, like, I gotta be doing just as much as you to get the same return, because at the end of the day, like, your currency is the likes, the comments, the views, the engagement, like, people really gaining from what you're putting out. So like, it's fucking overwhelming as fuck. Like, cause I don't want to just put out content that's like I saw this reel and the voiceover said, like, Instagram said I have to put out reels, so here's your reel. And like, it made me laugh, because I feel it on a internal note, like, fuck, that's what all you have to do is just keep putting out content. But I don't want to just put out content like that. Like, I want it to be intentional, powerful content, like life-changing content. So I feel pressure, because keeping up with the pace of everybody else, not everybody's putting out like deep ass content like that. Like they just putting out content to put out content because that's the name of the game. So I fought myself a lot in that shit. Like I want to put out content, but you know you want it to be good content. Like you know, like you don't want to just put out meaningless shit. And even with TikTok Reels, like you know, it's been tough with that. Like I could just, of course, just put out shit of being cute and that would get views, but that's not the point of what I'm doing. So it's just been a battle of that, like the type of content to put out. But yeah, this shit's hard. Like you try to do this, like just be in it. You know, I was watching this YouTube video. This guy was just like, people quit at that point, like when it's just having to put out content. Sometimes you're not seeing results. You just keep being consistent in the consistency piece to it. So yeah, it's been tough. I'm sure you know.
Yeah, and like I mentioned off camera, like you going up against motherfuckers who getting paid from this. This is a full-time job, like so they can do this every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Make an episode every day, and
they have more time to be creative.
Like, you feel me? Like they could do that, but when you live in life, when you still trying to figure shit out, and you don't have the luxury.
Yeah,
and
different.
Not to knock like where they're at.
No,
like,
hell no. That's the point. That's the goal, to get to that place. To just be creative. But yeah, you're right. That's a great point. You're competing with
so much shit.
Some really good content. Like, you know, yeah, that's how I be feeling.
Who can afford a $10,000 camera.
Yeah.
And a $500
and a team.
mic. And like, you feel me?
And a team though, you know, I think that's the biggest piece. When you're doing it alone, it's like,
it's hard as fuck.
Overwhelming as shit. Like,
it's hard as fuck.
Oh my god, I have to put the episode out. Oh my god, I have to edit. Oh my god, I have to put out content and create content that advertises this episode properly. And like, you just feel like damn, how do I do all this shit?
I recently just started uploading the videos to YouTube before they come out.
Oh yeah, that's my next goal.
Like, I'm like, fuck it, let me just put all the content
have it scheduled
and then just schedule it.
Yep.
And then just
that's a way
do
to
some
do
more
it.
shit so I could keep doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of helped. And there's so many different things that you can use, like business studio, like business creator studio for Facebook.
Okay. I never heard of that.
That can like help because
you can
schedule posts.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say like on your Sunday, I'm just finna like make 20 pieces of content today.
And that's the thing. That's the level I'm trying to get to. Just batch content.
And then just schedule that shit. And then they post on a Wednesday when you want to. And then like, you feel me? And people don't be giving a fuck about like, we take so much pride into shit that does not matter right now.
That's true. I think for me though, it's battling my discipline. Like I have hella content that I need to edit and master, and editing is it's so hard for me. Like I just hate it. Like I cannot wait to pay somebody to do it. Like it's the biggest thing I can't wait to get off my plate. So for me, I feel like I'm battling myself more often than like competing with people. Like I'm battling like, nigga, just put the shit out, do your work. Like just do your work, sit down and do this work. Cause it's a lot of work and you have to really be dedicated.
It's a lot. Like that's why I said
like it's Sunday right now and you're doing this. Like this is how it goes. So like, you know. You
gotta just keep going too. And that's like the hardest fucking part is the consistency. And people just be forgetting that. Like, well, no one forgets it. It's just hard. You're not trained to do that shit at least for your shit. But
and if you don't have somebody holding you accountable, like it's just you, like that's the biggest piece is holding yourself accountable. Like, do you really value what you're doing and like respect the potential of this shit? Like, do you? Because if you did, you would be doing these certain activities, and that's the biggest thing. I'd be like, oh God, like, get your shit together, Ariyuan.
So, what's your setup right now? What equipment and shit are you using now?
That's a good question. I am just I have a tablet that I pay for through my, which actually I need to like do my taxes properly and write that shit off next year. Because I intentionally got it for the podcast, this tablet, like how you have, and that's how I record audio. And then, I mean, I do have a phone like this, so like people have been telling me, like I was on this other podcast, they're like live, and he messaged me like, we were just talking about equipment. He's like, you can use your iPhone. So when I get to Atlanta, we'll see what happens. I might end up using my phone because I did record my last interview video like in person, and it recorded the whole like hour and 17 minutes, and I was like, okay, like you got more potential than I thought you had. So like it was humbling for me, like bitch, like this phone can do what you need it to do. So like try that too. So I'm about to check that out, like start trying to use my phone a little bit because I have like a 13 Pro, like good ass camera quality. But I also have some video cameras that I've invested in, and so eventually like I would like to not just be doing audio because that's all I am editing. My Wi-Fi, I don't really have like a solid Wi-Fi situation, and so in order to go to video with the video editor I'm gonna work with, I need to be able to upload my shit to Dropbox. And so that's the next hurdle, is like when I get to this place I'm moving to is like solid Wi-Fi. But yeah, the only equipment I'm using is like, I don't really know the microphone it is. I watched it on this video for a quality microphone in my research journey. But it's a microphone, and I have like an adapter that will connect from C to USB to connect the microphone to the tablet. And so it gets that quality audio still. But I have to go to the studio actually over here downtown to edit my intro. So like I use different shit, like I make it work, like I do what I can. Like my first intro I recorded on my homeboy's computer because my MacBook completely crashed out on me. Like I used to have a MacBook, I would use that and it froze, a virus, some shit. So it's a wrap because I gave it to somebody to fix, and it was some scammer shit. It's gone basically. But yeah, so I have like just the tablet, and I edit my audio in there and use other people's shit. Like I'll pay for studio time to go do what I have to do for the intro, and I'm about to work with this video editor here soon, pay for Dropbox. Anchor I use, but that's free, and that distributes my podcast to a bunch of platforms, which I'm grateful for. That's really it. I don't use too much, and it really doesn't require much. It's just about knowing these things. Like you have to find this information.
Facts. I've done my research on this because I just need to get my own setup for shit soon. But depending on like what budget you want to like invest in for like right now or whenever the fuck you end up doing it, I recommend a Shure SM57 $100 microphone, brand new. Off market $50, $75. It really just depends where you get it from.
Okay.
Get 4 of those just to have 4 over time, cause them, like you've seen it on a lot of podcasts, the bigger bulky one with the mic on it, that's a SM Shure 7B.
Okay.
It costs like $400 brand new. So I'd rather get SM57s, and it produces the same sound, maybe even better sound.
It'll still be good as long as you're in like an environment like this.
Just put a pop filter on it and it does that. Audio interface, you can do something basic like a Focusrite, but
I'm hiring people for this shit. Like that's the thing.
There's like
that's the next level.
There's this audio interface called a Zoom PodTrack 4.
Okay, and what does that do?
You can connect your maprophones to it. It has different buttons on it to where you can have like little sounds. Like you can even make one sound like your intro.
Okay.
So that you can just like press that shit and then let it go.
Okay.
But one of the most unique.
That's fire.
Yeah, and you can change the levels with
That's
the
tight.
microphone. It has the XLR.
Pushing the button for the intro, that's fire.
That's fire.
Because you can put it at any point in the episode.
And you can put like a sponsor, you can put claps, you can put whatever.
Yeah, hell yeah, you can put whatever the ad of the week is and shit. Yeah, that's fine.
And one of my favorite features on it is you can actually connect they have like an auxiliary cord that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
You can plug it into it and then connect the other end to your phone.
Okay.
And so whenever, if you like, someone's out of town and you're doing a Zoom call or a FaceTime or some shit, you can still get the audio.
Really?
That. Fire as fuck.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
fire as fuck.
So you could do like FaceTime with your interview.
Mm-hmm.
That's really dope.
And you know, like, if you was just to like screen record the FaceTime, you can't hear the audio in photos.
Okay.
But if you put that audio interface into that, it's gonna record the audio, but then you can just screen record so that you can have that for video.
You put it over it.
Put it over just like that, and now you got video content as well.
Hell yeah.
Shit, highly beneficial. But that shit, brand new, $200.
Yeah, I need that.
Cause of course you can see like the shit that Gillian Wallow uses on.
I definitely need that for my whatchamacallits right now. Cause I do virtual interviews right now. Like that's really been the name of my game. I mean, it might stay like that just because like I talk to people all over. But I also would like to get to a place like Oprah where she's like, come on my show. Like, you know, like I want you to come to my shit. So, you know, we'll see what happens. I'm just flowing with the process.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to hear more about that shit. Like, I want you to give me more information about that.
I got you. Yeah, we ain't even gotta waste time on the interview about that, but
yeah, no, you can definitely send me, please.
I'm gonna send you some shit. I got you. But yeah. So, what was the inspiration behind starting it?
Podcast?
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, people just kind of called me to it. Like, I feel like I always am seeking purpose, you know? So, like, and again, that's been a luxury, like a privilege. I don't have kids, so I can think about me for real and, like, what I'm supposed to do here. Like, I feel like that's what young people who don't have kids should be thinking about, like, what you should be doing. Like, what does God want you to be doing? And so I've always felt like that. Like, what does God want me to be doing? Like, what am I here for? So like with the podcast, it just felt like that was one of those things. I was asking at that time, and that was the answer that people kept giving me. You need to start a podcast. You need to start a podcast. And then I told you that woman messaged me, who is the sex trafficking victim, and that's the point of my show, like, seriously, is to be hosting healing conversations. You know, I put necessary, and that might be refined as I work with some other marketers, but like to ensure that the mission is really being carried out in one statement. But like the point of this show for me is like I've gained so much healing from talking about things I've been through, like, and being vulnerable and being honest about where I am and where I'm not. So that is really what I wanted to do with the podcast, is like provide that space for other people to be real and share and be honest and open. So the inspiration, I mean, was like I was called to do it, I feel like, by God. Like I really had like a lot of questioning with myself. I did a lot of things like spiritually, asking some questions, and like, you know, I even pulled some cards for myself with tarot cards with me. Like, I can't even give you an example, but it wasn't like specifically, God, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? But like certain things I was asking because I knew I didn't want to be arrogant in this shit. Like, I know how my ego can be. And so I think that was the scariest thing for it, was like, I set rules for myself. I wrote on big ass poster board, like, this is how you cannot go into an interview. This is the certain type of shit you need to be on. Like, just how a job would tell you. This is how you show up to work. This is how you show up to this shit. Like, and I battled, I feel like, with imposter syndrome. Like, is this me being me? But like, yeah, this is me being me in this setting. Like, there's a responsibility that I am being granted by the people that are saying, can I come share my story? Because that's a gift for people to want to open up to you and tell you they shit. And also for you to be the conduit to like such a heavy ass experience or whatever, like certain questions. So I don't take it lightly. Like, I really cherish and like respect my podcast. So yeah, I mean, the inspiration behind it was like community and healing. Like, healing of our people is something that's very important to me, just from my own experiences as being a Black woman, and even my Mexican side, like just my dad, like the system shit. So I know how trauma is and how deep it goes, and so that was like the biggest, that was what inspired and fueled it, like people's healing. Like, I want people to heal from this, whether they're the person listening or telling, talking, answering these questions that I have for them. Yeah.
That's dope. I fuck with that. What? So it's basically like your philosophy, like your own way of like therapy and healing and shit. But I fuck with what you doing.
Thank you.
Always support. I'm gonna keep tapping in. But it kind of like goes into my next question, right?
And let's just help one another however we can, you know?
Facts. Unity, the biggest thing.
Hell yeah.
Motherfuckers be forgetting that, but So when you sit down with people, what is your goal or the expectation of the conversation? With like topics do you like talking about a lot or mainly?
I like that question. I like a lot of your questions. Like I said, it's really refreshing just being on this side. But I think that every conversation is different usually, for the most part. And I'm intentional about that. Like, I don't want it to be the same, whatever stems that curiosity. Like, I want it to be something new in my mind. That's what keeps it exciting for me. And with my excitement and me being passionate, that will translate to the person I'm talking to. They're gonna feel the same way about what we're talking about. But it's always within their niche, you know? So like with the woman that was a survivor to sex trafficking specifically, because I was supposed to interview her today, so I had to do some preparation. I asked her like basic facts about her to, for me, get more perspective of who is it I'm talking to? Who am I about to be like on the other side of this? Like, because we're just meeting on Google Meets. Like, we talked on the phone once, right before I actually crashed my car, and that was a good vibe. And so I'm really big on energy. Like, I'll know if the vibes are gonna be good based on the rapport I've built with the person before we even get to this place, you know? From whether it comes from scheduling to asking them their LinkedIn page, like, I'll just know immediately, like, okay, this is what I'm getting into, and being prepared for that. But like I told you, I made like rules for myself, and so I don't have that big ass poster board anymore, but like I remember just some of the things on it were just like being actively listening, you know? So like, even though I have questions written down, allowing that conversation to just go freely and us just vibe. Because that's also what I want too. Like, yeah, I want to get to this deeper end point, but I also want it to be fun and like not only valuable to the person, but like that's doing it with me. But like, I had a good time. Like, thanks for inviting me to this. Like, I want to do it again. Like, and honestly, I would say that I have that return on that investment. Like, pretty much anybody that I've interviewed with, I know I could be like, I want to sit down with you again. And they're going to be like, okay, let's go. Like, I would love to do that. So, building that rapport for me is like important. even before we talk, from after that, like, a lot of the people that I've interviewed, I still comment on their content, or we're DMing and just engage with each other. So the connections are everything for me, for sure.
Connections is the biggest.
So building that rapport, I would say, is like it. But every episode's different. Like, I've interviewed an astrologist, and there were specific. I just like to. Another rule I had was like, stay curious. Like, don't think that I know it all. Like, just be open to asking and hearing. Like, there's this way to think about this, or, well, with this information that I know, now what will you do with that? So, yeah, just staying curious. And so I would allow that to be what plants the seed of every preparation process for my interviews, like being curious, genuinely curious. And sometimes that could be real left, and sometimes, you know, I have to remember, like, okay, this is trauma you're dealing with, or so whatever it is, and there's a way to ask these things. So, and again, after building that energy, like, people ain't just gonna open up just like because you're asking. Like, you know, you have to really like make them feel comfortable enough to share with you and open. So I feel like those are like the things that prepare me, and how I go about preparing is like these broader ideas and concepts with people, not the interview, you know?
Facts. Just kind of like, yeah, I kind of just try to base this as myself of like what you do, but also you as well, so that you have that way to just express yourself and just talk your shit, and then whatever comes from that conversation, we talk about them, things of that nature. But yeah,
it will just happen.
It will happen.
Intention's everything, I think, too. So like when you set that intention of like, I want the interview to go like this, and put that work into it, that's what you're gonna get out of it. You know.
Facts. So last episode I believe you posted was back in January.
I think so.
That's on there. What happened there to where you kind of like stopped posting?
You're calling me out. I like that. I was preparing to move, really. Like, that was like the biggest focus, I think, in my life at that point, is like, I'm getting the fuck out of Colorado. So I felt like I should just stop making content. I should just put this on a pause until I'm more stable. And then I crashed my car, and niggas been down. Like, I've just been sitting down, literally, like, just trying to get better. So that's kind of what happened. But I think I allowed, like, the fact that I'm moving, just excuses, just like anybody else. I'm not perfect. So that's actually the goal, was like, it's coming on the second year here in a few weeks, and I want to do things different. Like, I've set new rules for myself. Like, we're at a new level. Like, so there's new rules. Like, I've learned the rules that I set for myself in the past, and am applying those things in these spaces now. So now it's time to set a new set of standards because of the place I want to go to. So I've wrote in red pen, and it's like a sign, like eventually it will be like, and I like that I'm doing this, because in any business owner, they could probably attest to this, but I'm doing this intentionally because when I do have a team, these are just typed and given to this person. These are the things I'm looking for when I edit. These are the things, like, I'm writing these things out, documents. So eventually, that ain't my shit. Like, I'm telling you, I'm not trying to be doing these things for too much long, because I love doing what I'm doing, but I don't love all the things that come with it. So I battled that, like I mentioned earlier in this conversation. So it was partly me battling myself and just kind of being like, fuck it. But then I was grieving my brother too. Like, it was just so much going on in my life, and I just wasn't really like dedicated in that way. And I'm giving myself grace though, because like, there's motherfuckers older than us that are just now like starting these things. So it's like, I try not to, I battle with that. Like, I'm young, I have time, I got all this time to kind of fuck off, but like also know, like, Ariane, you want to be in a different place by the time you're 30. Like, I want to be young, because 30 is still young, but like, it's older. I want to be like 30, boss the fuck up, like, big chillin'. Like, so it's a battle with that of knowing like every decision I make is like monumental to really where I'll be in a few years. And that's part of it, but also just mental shit, like emotional shit. Like, my brother being murdered was a lot. Like, that was just a year yesterday. And that was a lot. Like, that was really hard. It's still, I'm dealing with it daily, you know? But I feel like I have a really good support system in my life. And, you know, I think that a lot of people like to like self-made. And I think that to a certain extent, if you invest in yourself with your own resources, that's cool, that's self-made. But like, no one is where they are because of being alone. Like, it was somebody that believed in them, or just like people say, you should start your podcast. Some person impacted the journey. Even the people that come on my podcast, they are the reason why it exists.
Right.
So, you know, I am not self-made. Like, I'm made by my community and by my experiences. So, yeah, that's really what the pause was. And crashing my car, breaking my neck, like, gave me so much perspective. Like, I'm on the bus again. Like, I haven't been on the bus, I told you, since I was 13. Like, this is, it's rewarding. Like, some days I'm like, fuck, I want the bus to come quicker. But then in that moment, I'm like, first of all, you did this to yourself. Like, check yourself. Like, you did this. Then I'm also like, I have the opportunity to meet people. Like, I actually was just walking on the way here. I met this guy who, he's probably gonna be somebody on the podcast just by a quick little conversation. So, I'm grateful for this perspective, like a motherfucker. But it was necessary for me to take the podcast and anything that I continue to involve myself with to those next levels. Like, life is short, and I could have died in an accident for sure. Like, and my brother dying also was such an impact to that. Like, at first I was battling with, is this worth it? Like, should I, like, really value my life because I might die young? Like, what's the point? And then after crashing my car, I was just like, because I was sitting in that hospital bed, like, they told me I could have been paralyzed.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there, like, and I was alone, like, on some real shit. I was arrested, like, so I was in a part of the hospital where, like, people can't come see you. So I was sitting in a hospital bed for 36 hours by myself, broken neck, with handcuffs on me, and I'm just like, and cops all in the room, like, I'm being watched, I'm being treated like a criminal. And I'm just sitting there like, you're thinking, at least you're thinking. Like, you have your mind, that's a beautiful thing. 'Cause you can, that's what's got me to every dollar I've made is how I've thought myself through some shit. So I was like, okay, just keep thinking, bitch. Like, just think, like, just stay thinking, stay using your brain, you gonna be good. And just being humbled from that, like, I just don't want to take anything else for granted. Like, my body, my ability to move my body, my ability to think in certain ways. Like, I've worked with autistic kids. I've seen people walking down the street, I mean, rolling in a wheelchair down the street. So being told that I could have been paralyzed and not being able to work, but now being able to finally work, watching my body heal in certain ways just made me realize, like, I can't take this shit for granted no more. I have to move differently. So, yeah. Grief is a motherfucker for sure. But it made me go through all the things I've been through to get to this place today.
And so that was like, yeah, you kind of answered my question. Like, what's been some of the challenges of maintaining this and dealing with all of that? Is like
those
life,
things.
nigga said,
Yeah.
Life is just the hardest thing.
Regular life shit for sure.
I mean, in a way, for what you are creating, you can just talk your shit to a mic and post it because of everything that you were going through. But then,
Yes.
like, it's like, fuck, sometimes you don't even have the motivation to do shit.
Absolutely. I actually used to post like on Instagram like before it was like a thing, like, and it was crazy. I would get like good views and I would be like, okay, bitch, like hell yeah. But like life, you know, so like I've been through shit that was like taking my confidence or made me question and doubt myself. So I'm getting back to that place of like knowing like my voice is of value. People do gain from this. People do want to hear you speak. And just getting back to loving myself in ways that like life has like tried to take from me, experiences that I've kind of put myself through or just was thrown that card, tried to take that from me, my voice. And I think that's also been part of it. Like, I believe this is like a spiritual experience. I don't know about everybody if that they believe that for their journey, but I'm here learning shit like that I will not have to carry with me in the next life if I'm, you know, I might have sinned and I have to be a human again, but karma might bring me back here. So I just take everything as like a lesson. Like, I do like sympathy a lot, and I've learned that. Like, I learned that through my podcast and just other experiences. But you know, I've gained a lot from a lot of the shit I've been through. Even when in the moment I don't see it like that. Like, more often than not in the moment I'm like, boo-hoo, like, why is this happening to me? Like, fuck. And I think it's easy to get caught up in that, especially as being young people. Like, it's so new to you to go through shit. And that's actually what you just made me realize. I was saying that, like, watching my mom go through grief with her son, like, was just like, damn, like, I am so privileged to only be 23 and not been through so much shit. Like, if I was older and so many things had happened to me and then my brother passed away, like, I don't know if I would be bounced back the way I am today, like, you know, like, or just so, like, tenacious still and resilient, you know? So, yeah, like, I try to look at everything as a lesson. Even if I don't in the moment immediately, I always take a step back, like, okay, this is teaching you something. Like, or what did you gain from it? Like, what do you see now? How are you looking at life? So, yeah. But in those moments, I've been depressed, like, and just not doing shit. Like you said, like, it's really hard. But I'm coming back to those places of just, like, walking in my power and, like, stepping into those roles that God is initiating me to. And I think that pain does that. Pain initiates us into our greatness, you know? The chosen people, like, God's people. So, like, suffering is a part of this shit. It's hard, but it's necessary. You don't value shit without going through shit. Like, you know, if it was all rainbows and shit, like, what would be my fuel to add light to the world? What would be my fuel to even working with the kids I worked with? Like, if that shit didn't exist, the bad things that they've been through, I would not have the desire to help them, you know? So this suffering shit is a part of the process for everybody, even those kids going through the suffering they are going through. So, yeah.
And what advice would be some advice you would give to people who want to start a podcast or to, like, even have the confidence in self to speak on topics or certain occasions?
Don't do it for your ego, like, for real. Like, don't do that shit, because when you do that shit, like, egotistically rooted, just based on my experiences doing anything out of my ego, like, you'll be tested and a lesson will come. And, like, that shit will come, like, shitting on you back in return. Like, karma's a motherfucker. So, you know, don't do it out of ego, but I have to remind myself of this because I do get in this, and I'm gonna take this with me too as I say it. Is just enjoying it, reminding myself to enjoy it. Like Drake says, the moment I stop having fun with this shit, I'll be done with this shit. And when I heard that, I was like, hell yeah, like, I should be having fun. Like, when I'm in the interviews with people, I'm loving this shit. but I'm not embracing all the bits and pieces to it. And so I want to get more into that. So I would give that to somebody else. Just have fun with it, like, because it's not going to be easy all the time. Like, there's going to be times when nobody likes your shit. You're going to post it and no one sees it. And that's just what it is. Like, you put that out because you wanted to share that, not because it was supposed to get these numbers of likes. So don't do it out of ego. Like, just put out content for your heart, for your spirit, what you really feel passionate about, and what you feel like is going to be of like positivity to like this world, because it's a fucked up world out here, and like these next generations just only need us to keep persevering and being better than the previous. But as far as like the confidence, just do it. Like, you do it one time. Like, it took me a lot of time, like a lot of like, just get on this bitch, get on the mic, like just talk. I talk. Y'all been hearing me. I've been talking for a while now. I love to talk, but it took me a lot still, as a person that loves to talk and loves to hear herself, to be like on that microphone. But once I got on it, it was like, okay, just like with my longboard, just like with drawing something new, like trying anything new is going to be kind of scary at first, because you don't know what you're getting yourself into. Like, it's unknown on the other side, and you don't know if you know what you're doing. Like, you're like, am I doing this right? I have no idea. Fuck it, let's go. So I think those are scary parts, but those end up being like the best moments, because you end up seeing like, damn, I did that. Like, I researched this shit and here we are. Like, the shit's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. So, and I figured it out, and that's so cool to see your own ability. So I think just to have fun with it and put out content for your spirit, your soul, like what makes you happy. Because if it makes you happy, likely or not, like, it's gonna make other people feel really good too. So.
One thing that people gotta realize, like, nowadays, content is an asset.
Definitely, but what do you mean? In what way?
You posted however many episodes right now. They're not getting everything. Like, you're not in the top 100 right now.
Yeah,
I'm not in the fucking top 100 right now.
Yeah, 100.
When we get there, though, the benefit of what you already have, niggas is gonna go back.
Absolutely.
Because of course they want to see this new episode you just posted. But fuck, she already got 50 episodes.
Like, what was she doing in 2018?
Like, yeah, and it's going to be the same for me. This shit might not blow to the biggest extent in the next 6 months. But I'll have 6 months worth of content until I blow for a nigga be like, God damn it, I'm just now coming to this shit. Exactly. Hold on, let me go to that first interview this nigga had and watch that. But by the time we get to that level, I done already monetized my page. I done already made all of this shit. So that's when they go watch it, I made.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Whatever. So,
yeah, that's also why I'm big on the consistency piece. Cause like, people, that's also, I'll say that as a written advice. Like, having a lot of content is a credibility thing, for sure. I feel like, because that means because anybody I'm watching, like, learning from, I want to see that they've done this shit for some time. One, to be teaching me, but also their growth. Like, because it's not just going to happen overnight. It happens through learning and doing new things and trying new things. Like, you're feeding people. Like, so you have to learn who you're really serving at that point. Like, what do they really want from me? So it's about refining your skills and shit. So I love to watch people that really have a lot of content too, for the credibility piece. Like, you've been in this shit, okay, and you really putting out content and it's all doing numbers, okay. And
to see that, like, just to see the evolution. Like, damn, you did start off with the iPhone. Damn, now this motherfucker got this
got some whole professional shit.
Got 3, 5 cameras, got all this setup and lights and shit. Like, that's what it's for. That's why I believe it's an asset. Because it's not going nowhere. Like,
yeah, that's true.
It's gonna stay there unless you delete that shit.
Hell yeah.
But if you keep it there anyone can come and see this shit, and you never know who's gonna come.
You right.
And you never know what video blows. Like, that's why I just keep doing this shit. This might be the video that give me 10 million views. Who fucking knows?
Who knows? You never
Like,
know. You
just,
don't know what video
like, you
will
don't
be.
know.
Yeah.
And then, oh yeah, I still got 10 other videos though that niggas ain't seen yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let me just, it's the same with like people with films. You make all these short films and you make a big picture and it's like, oh shit.
Oh, that's
this
my
was
goal.
This was doing that fucking,
Hell
oh
yeah.
damn, I put this on the back burner. And even still, like,
Hell yeah.
understanding patience is a thing, because I don't know if you've seen it, but Squid Game is one of the biggest fucking Netflix.
I never watched it. I've
shows.
heard like a lot about it.
But the crazy thing that I thought about it was he had that script for 12 fucking years.
Shut up.
And no one wanted to put it out. It took 12,
It wasn't the
like,
time.
It took 12 years
Yeah,
though.
it was
and
his
then
idea was too advanced.
And then it becomes
For that
the
time.
fucking biggest show they've ever had. One of the biggest shows they've ever had.
Now I gotta watch it just because of that. Like, I love a journey of shit like that. I love a good journey.
Like, you was like
12 years. That I needed to hear that because I'm a writer. Like, I want to write a shit. So I'm
Don't
like, I
rush
heard
it.
that. Like, I don't, and I do rush things, and I know that's why I got in my car accident too. Like, I literally had to walk slow. Like, everything in my life was like, slow the fuck down. Like, don't rush this shit. Don't rush it and have fun with it. Like, it'll happen. It's not gonna happen overnight though. Like, patience, they say patience is a virtue. Like, it's a virtuous place to experience. Like, not everybody gets that in their life, attains virtue. So, like, to experience virtue is to be patient and to have really put in the work for that feeling, you know? It's a victorious feeling.
I feel like a lot of people don't engage with that because at times, and just hearing that shit throughout our community, like, some motherfuckers will tell you to get that shit up. Like, not every nigga can rap. I'm gonna be honest. Like, not every nigga can make a song. Not every nigga can rap for like.
That's fair.
But you gonna keep trying to make music knowing that ain't working out for you. But you done like, no, like, I'm gonna just keep like.
Yeah, but how do you know if it's not for you if you haven't got good at it? You know?
Rapping can be taught. That shit is. It's
So
just
that's the
wordplay.
thing.
It's literally wordplay and flow.
So I just feel like if you put in the work to really learn, but
To
if you
get
doing
better.
the same thing for 10 years, that's why I realized, okay, we had 2 years, Ariyuan. Like, you have to do something different for this podcast to go where you want it to go. Because what you're doing for 2 years, it's got a decent return on the investment of time for sure. Like, as far as the impact, the numbers, but like, it's not where I want it to be. So it's time to turn it up. Like, that's just where I'm at. So
Yeah,
I think that if you just trying to be a rapper and doing the same shit, like putting out the same garbage ass music, you're not seeking better producers, you're not Googling more words, like, to better, because at the end of the day, your vocabulary needs to be pretty expanded too. Otherwise, you will say the same shit. Maybe read a book, you know, like, it's about self-development for sure in anything you do. So I think that's a big piece to it too. Like, you know, as I find myself looking to make content, it comes from when I'm inspired. So to be inspired, I have to go and watch an inspiring movie, watch documentaries, listen to good shit. So I have to be growing myself as a person and a woman to in turn grow my business too. So I think that's another piece of advice. Like, stay growing, because that's how your shit's gonna keep growing, the business or the creative endeavor, whatever it might be.
Yeah, this has been a well-needed conversation. I appreciate you for having me allow you to tell this story and like allow me to put it on this platform and
Hell yeah.
to just talk that shit, because it is about building rapport. And now that we have the rapport for however long, business can come.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's cool because what you may need, I might be in position to have. What I might need, you already
Vice
have. Like,
versa.
you feel me?
Exactly.
And it's just that fucking easy. So, staying connected, building rapport, and having unity and getting shit done is like the biggest thing. But
Yeah.
I appreciate you and shit. let the people know what you got
Oh,
next.
Hell yeah.
Next. Yeah.
I have a lot of content for y'all. For those of y'all that of my, I'm gonna promote the fuck out this for you. So for those of y'all that already fuck with me, thank you so much. I'm sure that you have understood at this point by the end of this conversation, like I do value so much of the piece and component that you are to my show, and just to my life, because it's so humbling and rewarding. But as far as content, like I have so much shit, it's like overwhelming at this point. Like I have to just, and I keep saying it, and I've done a little bit, but not to the level that I want to, of just sitting down and locking in like 5 hours of just editing content, 5 hours of batching content. So I have hella content. I would say that the next episode to get ready for is part 2 of Damien and I's conversation of moving with forgiveness. I don't know if that would be the name of it. That was the name of the first episode. We might keep it that, but it's with Damien, and also with Jesvi. She is the owner of lash vending machines out here in Colorado. I don't know if you've seen her on Facebook, but she's popping. She has hella, like, this is somebody, listen to this content, because she is a mom. She works 9 to 5, and she still does her lashes, does like 2 or 3 other TikTok accounts, and is putting out content, my nigga. Like, when I talk about work ethic, bro, like it was so fucking inspiring. And she's much older than us, like not much, but like she's not in our generation of people. And boss, like I can't wait for that episode to come out, just because it's so inspiring. And anybody that's creating content is just gonna be like, damn, like, okay, I gotta turn my shit up. My hustle has to come up, because this is a wife, a mother, and a worker on top of a business owner, and she's still making shit happen. So there's no excuse, it's just about that battle with yourself. But yeah, hella content on the way. Please check it out. There's mad episodes that are already out. So while you're waiting, stay tuned. But by August 19th, you'll have content, and that's the goal going forward, is to just be consistent. I owe that to the people that have been in tune, for sure, and to myself. But thank you.
I appreciate you for this opportunity. This is dope. This was, I'll put this in one of the top 5. Like,
really?
Top 5 interviews.
Hell yeah.
Just because of the conversation, how you were speaking, gave me content, like, and even still, I could probably chop this up and get.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do what
like,
you do
all
with
these
it.
different, like, you feel me?
Yeah, do what you do with it.
Some game in this. Definitely got some things to think about and to move forward with my own career and my life from this conversation. Very insightful. I want to do more with you, of course. Come on to your podcast whenever we can have that available.
I can't wait to talk to you, interview you.
Got some shit to say. Still, I'm gonna like put you in the magazine, of course. Gotta work on that. I'm gonna drop another issue or something.
Do you need photos, or like how does that work?
Yeah, you can send me some photos.
Okay, cool. I just did a shoot before I crashed, so
okay,
I could do that. I mean, well, when is it gonna come out? Because I might be doing like a business shoot real soon for my broker's like shit. Like, I'm trying to create content for that. So
I'm gonna do it in August.
Yeah, I don't think I'll have them then. So yeah, I'll just send you what I have then.
Okay.
But cool.
And
yeah, thank you for this, for real.
Yeah, and when would you want this to drop? Cause I'll drop this bitch tomorrow.
I mean, I would say like either right before August 19th ish, or right after, because I'm about to put out. That's when it's the 2nd year anniversary.
Okay.
Of the show.
I bet. Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that off camera. But
cool.
Yes, let the people know who you are again and who you with.
I'm Ariyuan Monet. I am the creator and host of I'm Just the Messenger podcast. That's my baby, so please go tap in. We talk about a lot of beautiful things. Dope people come on, and you're invited if you have a truth, perspective that you want to share to the world to expand their minds, or just inspire, or just get something off your chest. Please come on the show. Please hit me up through the DMs. I'm just the _messenger on Instagram, and Ariyuan Monet on Instagram, ARIYAUNMONET. And then I'm on Facebook as well as Ariyuan Monet. But just tap in with me, message me. I'm very receptive to people, so just hit me up and we'll talk. But thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.